Have you ever been home alone and heard a faint whisper, only to turn around and find no one there? What if you could capture those whispers? Tonight, we're diving deep into the chilling world of electronic voice phenomena, or EVP. These are mysterious voices, often caught on audio recorders in supposedly empty places, that seem to come from beyond our world. We'll explore some of the most bone-chilling and unexplainable recordings ever captured, analyze their origins, and try to understand what Toru is trying to communicate with us. So, turn down the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare to question everything you thought you knew about the sounds that go bump in the night. The story of EVP really begins with a man named Fredrik Jurgensen in 1959. He was a Swedish painter and filmmaker who was trying to record bird songs in the woods near his home. When he played back the tapes, he was stunned. Mixed in with the chirping of the birds, he heard what sounded like a faint, Norwegian accented voice discussing nocturnal bird songs. He was completely alone. Intrigued, he continued his experiments. One night, he tried to record again. As he listened back, he heard a clear, unmistakable voice. It was his deceased mother, saying in German, "Friedel, my little Friedel, can you hear me?" This personal and deeply moving experience launched Jurgensen on a lifelong quest to capture and understand these spirit voices, a field that would later become known as EVP. Following Jurgensen's discovery, a Latvian psychologist named Dr. Konstantin Rodive became fascinated by the phenomenon. He worked closely with Jurgensen and conducted his own extensive experiments, recording over 100,000 audio clips that he believed contained paranormal voices. Rodive's method involved using a radio set to the static between stations, known as white noise. He theorized that spirits could manipulate this random sound to form words. The voices he captured were often faint, speaking in short, rapid phrases, and sometimes in a mixture of languages. These became known as Rodive voices. His work, published in his 1971 book Breakthrough, brought EVP to a much wider audience and solidified its place in paranormal research, even though it was met with heavy skepticism from the scientific community. So how does one actually capture an EVP? The basic method is surprisingly simple. You just need a recording device. Paranormal investigators often go to locations with reported hauntings, like old hospitals, prisons, or historic homes. They'll set up their recorders, often digital ones for clarity, and begin an EVP session. This usually involves asking questions out loud into the empty space. For example, an investigator might ask, "Is there anyone here with us? Or can you tell me your name?" Then, they leave a period of silence, maybe 10 to 30 seconds, to allow for a response. The key is that they don't hear anything with their own ears at the time. The magic, or the mystery, happens during playback. When they listen to the recording, they might hear a faint, whispered response in the silence following their question. Now, let's talk about the classes of EVP. Investigators categorize them to grade their clarity. A class, CEVP, is the most common. It's a very faint whisper, often difficult to understand, and its interpretation is highly subjective. You might need headphones and have to listen to it multiple times to even guess what it is saying. A Class B is clearer. Most people can understand it with little prompting, though it might still be whispery or distorted. But the holy grail for investigators is the Class A EVP. These are incredibly rare. A Class A is a voice that is so clear and loud, it sounds as if someone was standing right next to the recorder. There's no mistaking what is being said, and it's these recordings that can turn a skeptic into a believer. Of course, the scientific community has several alternative explanations for what people believe are paranormal voices. One of the most common is audio pareidolia. This is a psychological phenomenon where the brain finds meaningful patterns, like words or phrases, in random noise. It's similar to how we see faces in clouds or shapes in wood grain. When listening to static or ambient background noise, our brains are hardwired to search for patterns, and sometimes they create them. Critics argue that what investigators are hearing isn't a spirit, but simply their own minds making sense of meaningless sounds. Another potential explanation is radio frequency interference. Our world is saturated with radio waves from countless sources. AM/FM radio stations, walkie-talkies, cell phones, and even baby monitors. It's possible that a recording device, especially a less sophisticated analog one, could accidentally pick up stray broadcasts. A snippet from a distant taxi dispatcher or a fragment of a song could easily be mistaken for a ghostly voice, especially when it's faint and distorted by static. This is why many serious investigators use shielded equipment or record inside Faraday cages to block out external signals. But it's always a possibility that needs to be ruled out. Let's listen to a few famous examples. One of the most well-known EVPs was captured at the Moundsville Penitentiary in West Virginia, a notoriously haunted former prison. During an investigation, a team asked, "What is your name?" After a moment of silence, the recording captured a raspy, guttural voice that clearly says, "Shay." The investigators had no prior knowledge of an inmate named Shay. Later research into the prison's records was inconclusive, but the clarity and directness of the response are undeniably creepy. The voice has a chilling quality that is hard to explain as just random noise. Another classic example comes from a private residence in the UK. A family was experiencing what they believed to be poltergeist activity, objects moving on their own and strange noises. They left a recorder running overnight in their living room in the dead of night, with no one awake. The device captured the sound of a young girl's voice, giggling, followed by a clear, sing-song whisper saying, "Come play with me." The family did not have a young daughter. The recording is incredibly unsettling, not just for the words, but for the playful, yet eerie, tone of the voice. What makes these recordings so compelling is the context. When a disembodied voice directly answers a question, or says something relevant to the history of a location, it becomes much harder to dismiss as coincidence or For instance, investigators at the Waverly Hills Sanatorium, a former tuberculosis hospital with a dark history, asked if any of the former nurses were present. On playback, a faint female voice was heard, saying, "I'm so cold." Given the countless stories of suffering and loss within those walls, a response like that feels deeply significant and personal. However, we have to acknowledge the role of human error and even deception. With modern audio software, it's very easy to manipulate a recording, to layer in a voice, or to enhance static until it sounds like a word. Some so-called evidence you find online is undoubtedly fake, created for clicks and views. That's why the reputation of the investigator and the transparency of their methods are so important. Reputable researchers will provide the raw, unedited audio file for others to analyze, and will be open about the equipment and conditions of the recording. So, where do we stand? Are these whispers from spirits of the departed, trying to bridge the gap between their world and ours? Are the echoes of past events, imprinted on the environment, like a residual recording? Or are they simply a product of technology and our own psychology, a grand illusion our brains create from static? The truth is, no one knows for sure. The phenomenon of EVP exists in that fascinating gray area between science and the supernatural, belief and skepticism. For every logical explanation, there is a recording that seems to defy it. For every clear as day class, a voice, there are 1,000 ambiguous whispers that could be anything. Perhaps the answer isn't a simple one. Maybe some EVPs are pareidolia, while others are something more. What is certain is that the search for these voices continues to captivate us. It taps into a fundamental human question. Is there something after this life? The idea that we could get an answer, whispered through a speaker, is a powerful and enduring one. Whether you're a staunch believer or a hardcore skeptic, you have to admit there is something deeply unnerving about listening to a recording of an empty room and hearing a voice whisper back. It challenges our understanding of reality. So next time you're in an old building, or even alone in your quiet house, maybe take out your phone and hit record. Ask a question. You might not hear anything at all, but when you play it back, listen closely to the silence. You never know who might be waiting to talk to you. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the unknown. If you've ever had an experience with EVP, or captured something unexplainable on tape, share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries. Stay curious and listen closely.